Hey everyone, welcome! Today's explainer is diving into a massive paradox in modern tech, why the supposed magic of synthetic data actually isn't perfectly private at all, and more importantly, how human oversight, what we call the human in the loop, or HILT, is actually our ultimate shield. If you've been thinking synthetic data is some kind of silver bullet for privacy, well, buckle up. The reality is a whole lot more complex.
All right, let's just go ahead and shatter this illusion right off the bat. The corporate promise you hear all the time claims that generating statistical twins of sensitive data completely severs the link to real individuals. It sounds great, right? But the reality? Privacy isn't truly synthetic. Generative AI models suffer from this hidden vulnerability called structural overlap, which can, and does, silently leak real-world sensitive data.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're looking at the illusion of synthetic data, the threat of structural overlap, cluster inference attacks, the real-world risk, and finally, the human-in-the-loop defense. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The illusion of synthetic data. History really proves that traditional anonymization just fails when you mix it with external info. Remember 2006? AOL's quote-unquote anonymized search logs were almost instantly linked back to real people. A year later, Netflix's movie ratings exposed personal viewing histories. And in 2018, there was that massive Strava heat map of jogging routes that accidentally outlined top-secret U.S. military bases. Stripping out names just isn't enough anymore.
So because of those spectacular, frankly embarrassing failures, the tech world pivoted hard to generative AI. The goal was to create fake data that feels entirely real. The logic was actually pretty brilliant. Train an AI on sensitive data, ask it to generate completely new artificial records, and you preserve the data's utility while totally severing the link to real people. It sounded like the perfect, risk-free solution.
Section 2. The threat of structural overlap.
Now, here's the crucial thing about a modern black box attack. An attacker doesn't need to hack the system's code. They don't need the model's internal weights, and they definitely don't need a leaked copy of the training data. An adversary simply acts like a normal user. They just repeatedly query the AI model through an API to observe the synthetic outputs it generates. It seems harmless, right? Like, if all the data coming out is fake, what could they possibly learn?
Well, here is the absolute aha moment of this whole concept. Generative models have to learn the exact mathematical shape of real data to make their fake data realistic. And because they do this so perfectly, their synthetic data clusters, which we call medoids, act as structural echoes. They mimic the exact geometric shape of the real sensitive training data. So even without memorizing a patient's record verbatim, the AI produces synthetic records that clump unnaturally close to real individuals. This structural overlap, that is the silent vulnerability we're dealing with.
Section 3. Cluster inference attacks.
So, put yourself in the attacker's shoes for a second. They're essentially acting as an inspector, uncovering these dense regions of hidden training data just by looking at the synthetic outputs. They start by querying the AI for thousands of private synthetic records. By mapping them out and looking for dense clusters, they effectively trace the shadow of the original, highly sensitive data without ever actually touching it. Let's actually break down this cluster medoid leakage attack, or CMLA, into 5 straightforward steps. First up, the attacker samples a massive amount of synthetic data through repeated API queries. Second, they encode these records into a mathematical feature space. Then, step 3, they run unsupervised clustering algorithms to find where the data clumps together into dense regions. Fourth, they extract the medoids. Those are the exact center points of those clusters. And boom, step 5, by evaluating those center points, the attacker infers the exact neighborhoods of real human records. They're literally using the fake data as proxies to reconstruct the approximate profile of real people. Crazy, right?
Section 4. The real-world risk.
So, what does this all mean for us? Well, if AI is always going to reflect the exact geometry of our reality, rare subgroups become incredibly vulnerable. Imagine a patient with a super rare medical condition, or a customer with a highly specific pattern of financial transactions. Because they stand out in the original data, the synthetic data is going to form an isolated cluster right on top of their profile. They can be so easily exposed through these silent structural leaks. And here's the real kicker. Researchers have found that this kind of attack can even bypass traditional mathematical noise mechanisms, like differential privacy, under certain conditions.
Section 5. The defense. Human in the loop.
This quote right here from the World Health Organization really hits the nail on the head. They explicitly warn us that we can never, ever leave vital privacy, security, and clinical decisions entirely to automated systems. The machine can generate the data, sure, but humans absolutely must control the context, the application, and the boundaries of that data to protect our autonomy.
So how do we actually do this? Well, practical human-in-the-loop, or HILT, strategies are the only way to proactively govern AI. We need multidisciplinary teams. We're talking doctors, ethicists, and data scientists working together, not just programmers in an isolated silo. We have to require critical human review of AI outputs before they are acted upon. We need post-processing filters to catch leaks and regular fairness audits to monitor for those structural anomalies we talked about. Ultimately, strict accountability is how we catch the blind spots that algorithms completely miss.
I really want to leave you with this one provocative thought about our non-negotiable role in the age of machines. As AI gets better and better at mimicking our data, the boundary between real and synthetic is only going to get blurrier. Our critical thinking is literally the final firewall. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next one.